Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was surprised at.
Why,
Different
yeah.
teams.
Oh, didn't know.
Yeah. So the last time they had 120 wrestlers, maybe it's about 100. So they got to be done by 7:30.
Yeah. Yeah. How'd Mason do?
Call it.
Awesome. Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. Long day though, huh? Yeah.
They didn't get on there. They wrestled until 8:30, 9 o'clock. Oh yeah, it's good.
Oh, really?
They told us 3 mats. They had to pay for extra crap. There were 4 mats. We had to follow what they said.
Yeah.
They always finish them very short as this thing. The seating,
Where is that?
the seating bracket.
All right. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Education to order at 5 p.m. Mrs. Main, can we please have the roll call?
Frame,
Here.
Henschel,
Here.
Labyrinth,
Here.
Main here, Pennell,
Here.
Motor.
Here. All 6 members are present, and so we have established a quorum. We will be taking a moment of reflection preceded by the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to announce that we will be having a workshop to discuss budget reductions for the 26-27 and vacancy appointment candidates after our regular meeting. It's now time for public comment. The public may approach the board to make a presentation no longer than 5 minutes per person in 10 minutes per topic. Those persons exceeding these time limits shall be interrupted as deemed necessary by the presiding officer. Members of the board and administration will not respond or further discuss items that public comment at this meeting to remain in compliance with state statutes, Chapter 19, Subchapter 5, open meetings of governmental bodies and the public notice requirements. I'm referencing policy 0167.3, public comment at board meetings. I want to remind participants that the presiding officer is guided by the following rules. Letter F, all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Letter G, the presiding officer will interrupt, warn, or terminate if the participant's statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Number 2, the presiding officer will request any individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. Number 3, the presiding officer will request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of a disorderly person when that person's conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. Number 4, the presiding officer will call for a recess or an adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting as to warrant such actions. So at this point, we'd like to welcome up anyone from the public that would like to share a comment. Please state your name as well as your address. If you prefer to share your address, write it down on a white slip of paper and give it to Mrs. Main. You're welcome to do that. So thank you.
Jim Hess, Fond du Lac County. Thank you. Last time I brought up the average cost of a public school student in Wisconsin being $18,000. But to clarify, Fond du Lac cost is just over $11,000 per student. Numbers of students enrolled in the district is a big factor on how much money is paid by state and local tax revenue. The birth rate in the U.S. is 1.6, below the replacement rate, and Wisconsin's birth rate is even lower. There's little hope of that turning around. Revenue caps. They were introduced in the 1993-94 school year. Before that, school boards and voters, rather than state formulas, largely determined spending levels. But state legislators intervened. They took power and local oversight from the citizens in each school district. We used to hash out the spending right here with one another. But now revenue caps is centralized, non-transparency. Today's addition equation is students behaving plus teachers instructing, reading, math, science, equals schools succeeding. Wisconsin Assembly Bill 614 strengthens teachers' authority to remove disruptive or violent students from classrooms and requires parental notification within 5 days of such incidents. It also provides employment protections. Teachers' inability to police their classroom is a major reason they leave their profession early. The one problem I see with this bill will be a room large enough to hold all the disruptive students that teachers will be removing. The bill has passed both Assembly and the Senate and is headed to the governor's desk. The governor, the former head of DPI, will show if he's willing to give protection and authority, and more authority, to teachers in the classroom, where education is transacted and school's number one object is accomplished. The Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disability opposes AB 614, saying, quote, it lets teachers decide which students they keep in class. And Wisconsin law already gives school boards authority to remove students from classrooms, unquote. I believe teachers who are dealing directly with children need to have that authority. And parents with disruptive children need to be more involved in the correcting of behavior that negatively affects learning in the classroom. Board members, I urge you to talk to teachers and find out how they feel about Assembly Bill 614. And also, as we near Election Day, April 7th, a good question to ask school board candidates. One other question to ask is, how do you stand on our school transgender bathroom policy? Our board members should know that young men should not be allowed in our girls' bathrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huss. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? All right, seeing none. If we could have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda as follows: February 9th, 2025, regular meeting minutes, personnel recommendations, retirement, and bi-monthly financial report.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Henschel, a second by Mr. Lavrens. And just want to remind the public that as far as our bi-monthly financial reports go, board members ask a number of questions. If there is an item on here you have a question about, please feel free to reach out to any board member. Also, as we're looking at we have a retirement. Robin Olson Winkler is retiring from the school district. We want to wish you well and congratulations on your time. If we could have the roll, please.
Frame,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Lavrance.
Yes.
Main, yes. Pinell,
Yes.
Motor.
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Moving forward is our, if we could have a motion to consider the approval of a board authorization letter.
I move that the Board of Education approve the board authorization letter for inclusion in the virtual charter school grant application.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Henschel, a second by Mr. Lavrance. Superintendent Steinbarth.
Yes, and I'll pass this over to Mr. Groves, as he's been instrumental in digging through some of this, as well as Ms. Kunzman as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Amy Kunzman is actually taking the lead on the grant application itself, and she's done an amazing job. At some point, we hope to present the full package of what we plan to do with the virtual charter school, the programming. Unfortunately, we will not know whether or not we receive the grant until the end of June. So what we're seeking right now is just the board's approval for the authorization letter. That's really the next step in the application process. The application goes through the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, and if approved, it would allow for what we're considering a proactive approach to expanding our current learning options for students and families in the 2027-2028 school year. So it will not be up and running for this next school year. If the grant is awarded, our plan is to conduct a planning year next school year where we will be building the infrastructure for this virtual charter school program. We're excited about it. It's going to service potentially students in grades 6 through 12. It's going to set us apart from a lot of the other virtual charters out there because we're going to plan on providing personalized learning pathways, high quality, standards-based curriculum, rigorous instruction, flexible scheduling, and comprehensive adult supports. Something that's unique about our charter school is that we plan to use our current curriculums that we have in place, that we've bought and paid for, and transfer them to an online learning platform. And that's going to be a pretty large benefit for our students that have to transition between a brick and mortar building and then a virtual setting. So we're excited about this. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
I was going to make a comment versus a question. I think this is a great first step and a great approach. Numbers matter as far as revenue that we just heard, right? More population. We lose a lot of population to virtual schools. It's a new way of learning. It's what people are doing. And with that population that gets moved, we also lose revenue on doing that. So hopefully we can stop the bleeding, I guess you want to call it a little bit, on people, the money, people going elsewhere and the money going elsewhere. The nice thing is I love the fact that we're approaching it with our curriculum because we know it's working. The results we're getting are proven. That should help us with that recruitment then too, because people will see the growth and the opportunities that you're seeing within our academic atmosphere. So super excited about this. I wish we could fast forward this thing a little bit quicker.
Me too.
But I understand it's government and it takes time and process. So
It does.
But thank you for doing that and taking that aggressive, proactive approach on making sure that we play in that playground is really what it comes down to. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Lavrance, or I'm sorry, Mr. Frame?
Do we know, will that grant fully fund the virtual learning that we have planned?
Our plan is to apply for a grant with the prospected enrollment of around 150 students. If we
Okay.
do qualify for that grant, we'll be awarded around $1.5 million for the next 3 years.
Okay.
A large chunk of that money will go towards the staffing side of the planning year for this next year. The actual tech pieces of it, for example, we are going to go for towards Canvas as our LMS for the virtual platform. that'll be something down the road that we plan to incorporate into all of our classes in K-12, not just our virtual learning platform. But yeah, the majority of those funds would be used to set up this infrastructure for our virtual charter.
How many, now you said create staffing, how many jobs are we looking at that this will create?
That's a great question. We won't know specific numbers until we, number one, get the grant and can plan for it, and then register and enroll students. I think we could hit 150 students pretty easily. With that in mind, that would be around 8 to 10 staff members immediately, give or take, that we would need to service these students, teach these students. And then as we expand and as we grow, hopefully we would expand our staffing as well, too.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions, comments?
No, similar comments to what everybody else said. I think it's a good thing to get ahead of and, jump right in. And, hope maybe that's something that can, shoot up even further, right?
Yeah, we're excited about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback. It's super exciting. With the staff, when we get to that point, hopefully we'll be able to it won't really necessarily be an add-on, since with everything that's going on, we can move staff into that, right? So
Absolutely.
that's perfect.
We're hoping, because we're using current curriculums in place right now, if there is a situation where, say, there's a math teacher that teaches Algebra 1 that only has 4 sections and has an open 5th section, that they could use that time slot to manage some of the students in the virtual platform. So we'd be using existing staff to support the instruction on the online school, which works out great for us too, because it's our teachers, it's our curriculum, it's our students. I mean, it's just a great plan. But like I said, I mean, it's a great plan, but we still have to get the grant too, so.
I have a question. You commented Canvas will be our, what were the 3 letters and what do they mean?
The LMS, Learning Management System.
Okay,
The details I would defer to Paul back here on that one, but that's basically like the students will log into Canvas, will be their dashboard where they'll access all of their courses on there. Their grading will be done on there. Teachers will manage their courses through Canvas, and what's nice about that is grades will transfer between the Canvas and Skyward. They play together pretty nicely from what I've learned so far, but that's what the Canvas will be used for.
thank you. I had the opportunity to talk to Mrs. Kunzman about this, and some of the parts I was really excited about, especially using our curriculum. Sometimes we have students with some anxiety who they're a little bit anxious to come back to school. They could do my understanding is if this goes this route, they could take the majority of their classes virtually, but maybe go to one in school. And then let's say they're feeling more comfortable because it's our teachers and our curriculum, possibly at semester, they would maybe start to go half day. So I love the opportunity that we can, sometimes it's that baby step to get going. So I think we could maybe welcome some students back. And then, which is that personalized learning, which I love. And then you had also mentioned, I don't remember the words you used, but we had talked about that importance of mentoring and having a person. So you're not virtually on with a company, we don't know where they exist. There are humans here in Fond du Lac that you'll be building relationships with, staff members that then hopefully can welcome you back into brick and mortar if that's your match.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Motor. And what you're speaking to is the hybrid approach that we're looking for.
Thank you.
Where a student could potentially take their core classes, a math and English class in person, and then transition to take some electives virtually, asynchronously. We'd also like to have the option of a synchronous virtual learning environment where if you would like to, you would be meeting face-to-face from your home on a computer with a teacher that in a virtual environment as well. So
That's great.
the hybrid, flexible learning options is really our goal to support all families.
Thank you.
Quick question that popped in my head. Do we know, or are we able to measure how many students we lose right now to virtual?
I don't have that number, but there is a number there. I could find
Yeah.
that number for you and get that to you.
I'd be curious on that because hopefully we can bring them back into our school then too. Just kind of curious on that, so.
I know we've lost a handful in the last few weeks that
Oh,
have
really?
transitioned to virtual schools, either through moving or just looking for something different.
And then you think if they go to a different virtual platform not in our district, all the learning that they had from our district, then they left, and there's going to be a disconnect there. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you for your team for working on this and bringing it forward.
Katie, can I ask one more?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes, go for it.
It just came to me. So if, because they'll be ours, will they, if they're doing the virtual, all virtual, let's say, will they be able to participate in extracurriculars still and sports and that kind of thing too
There'll be
if they want?
students, there'll still be students in the Fond du Lac School
Yeah.
District.
Okay,
That's
It's a good
great.
question.
yeah.
Thank you. If there are no other, you have a
Just
question?
just another comment about it potentially. So you were talking about people, students moving out and everything. This is a way that you could kind of keep them still in our area until like another year, so that way they can move into their next one, kind of help them transition into that.
Absolutely.
Because you can
move,
keep them
sure.
virtual, and then that also potentially gives opportunity for people, other areas of Wisconsin to opt in to Fond du Lac, right?
Yeah, you're right. So the asynchronous model would be fully remote on your computer, full-time, and this would allow for any student anywhere to be enrolled in our school and be part of the Fond du Lac School District. You could live in, Appleton or Madison and still take courses through us.
Thank you. Can we have the roll, please?
Yes.
Lavrens,
Yes.
Maine, yes. Pinell,
Yes.
Frame,
Yes.
Motor.
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Moving forward, Fond du Lac High School field trip.
I move the Board of Education approve the Fond du Lac High School field trip to Germany, Switzerland, and Italy in June of 2027.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Henschel, a second by Mr. Lavrens. Superintendent Steinbarth.
Yeah, on my end, again, Mrs. Bratz has graciously said she'd like to give students an opportunity to visit all of these places. I'm checking my calendar in 2027 to see what June 13th to the 22nd looks like. But again, just the opportunities our students have, because we do have staff outside of their normal work day and work time, willing to chaperone and do these things with our students. And again, as you look at the plan, it's a year and a half out, so it gives students ample time to do some fundraising. And again, just looking at all the places that they may have an opportunity to go see and experience. I mean, again, what a great opportunity, and we try to make sure students have these opportunities, and it's just great that we have staff willing to support that.
I was just going to make a comment that, cost-wise, it's like $4,600 per student, and what I do like is it's far enough in advance. There's extensive fundraising opportunities that they're going to have available, so anybody should be able to have access and won't be, discounted because of their financial means or anything like that. So I like that they're already put that in place, that they're going to be doing stuff to raise money for it. So thanks.
Thank you. Can we have the roll, please, Mrs. Main?
Lavrens,
Yes.
Maine, yes. Pinell,
Yes.
Frame,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Motor.
Yes, motion carries 6-0, and yes, thank you, Mrs. Bratz, for bringing that opportunity forward for students. Moving forward, our academic gap reduction program report.
And again, I know he enjoys it, so Mr. Groves can kind of take the lead on this one.
Thank you, Mrs. Steinbarth. This is our mid-year report for our schools that are in the Achievement Gap Reduction Program. So based on a formula that uses schools' enrollment numbers, free and reduced lunch data, we're able to provide state aid or receive state aid for staffing wages. In order to qualify, each of the schools need to use one or a combination of strategies that includes one-to-one tutoring, instructional coaching, or maintaining a smaller class size around 18-to-1. This program was previously referred to as SAGE. Now it's the AGR, Achievement Gap Reduction. And as part of our contractual agreement between our district and the state of Wisconsin, we're required to submit data reports to the DPI as well as to our school board for review every year at 2 points in time, one in February and one at the end of the school year. So these schools have indicated the strategies within those individual school reports that you all have access to. And the following schools are participating this year: Chegwin, Evans, Parkside, Riverside, and Waters Elementary. So those 2025-26 February reports are included for your review. You will receive another update and report at the end of the year in June with the final numbers.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I know as our principals come forward throughout the year, we get updates on a number of different ways students are growing academically. This is just one specific point, and it looks as if it's one given point they write a goal on.
Yep.
However, when they come in and speak to us, it's more comprehensive in not just one objective, but holistically.
That's correct. And most of the schools are using iReady data too to track their goals and grades 1, 2, and 3. So again, those principals have reported out on the same data. This is just another layer of data and goal setting that these buildings do.
Questions or comments?
I want to make a comment that I have had multiple teachers talk about how much they like Bridges curriculum, and we've been seeing really good results with it. So I like it when they like the curriculum and we're getting the results, right?
Yep.
So it's a double plus. So I encourage any instructors and teachers that if you have stuff that you do enjoy or that it's working, make sure you communicate it to us, because we're not in the classrooms. I don't work on the programming, so I really want to know. When I hear that, I'm like, good. Then we made good decisions on going that route. So I love the feedback.
Yeah, that's a
on
good
that.
point. The Bridges 3 that we purchased this last year has had a very warm reception from our teachers, more engaging, more activities. Workplaces have always been the same kind of unit after unit, and now they've expanded those as well too. So we're excited about those. I know our teachers are excited about those, but that's a great point. Thank you, Mr. Henschel.
I had a question. So for some of the reports, we're able to see, I thought I saw that somewhere, fall and then winter and spring, and some it's winter and spring. Can we get a copy of the ones where we can see fall, winter, and spring, just so we can see the growth? Unless I'm seeing this, forget it.
Yep, you should have fall and winter
I
data.
see the baseline
Okay.
way over to the left.
Yeah, some of them.
That's where I missed that. Some of them were right
Hard
next
to
to it.
see.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that. And then another, as we're looking at possibly larger class sizes at elementary, can you, I know one of the areas is 18 students to one teacher. Have you and your team discussed that and how you'll continue to meet the needs so that we receive the funding that goes along with this?
Yeah, that's a great point, because previously we were stuck really tight to the 18 to 1. Although that number will go up, those students will have access to instructional coaching provided by our instructional coaches, interventionists throughout the district. But I know that we are going to make an effort to keep those class sizes down in those schools that are AGR schools when we look at staffing coming up here pretty soon.
And I believe some of the schools, that's where you already made some changes because their class lists or classes were so small that you could
Yep.
change that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That conversation needs to stay front of mind when we're having those staffing conversations and student conversations, that these are still AGR schools.
Thank you. Anything else on AGR? Otherwise, we'll move into student staff activities. Is there anything, I know we've only had just a week, so, yep, does anyone want to share? Mrs. Pinau, do you, sorry, Mr. Frame.
First off, I was able to get to the Lakeshore and the Parkside meetings that we have been having with staff and sometimes with families. Lakeshore had families there, which actually I think adds a great deal to it in terms of interaction. Also, this afternoon, I had the pleasure of being in the teaching and learning curriculum meeting with Mr. Groves, and we covered a wide spectrum from reviewing what UVA they had experienced in a Zoom meeting, a summer school, and the some interesting things above that were showing up on iReady tests, which is we are seeing kids topping out, which is, as he said, a wonderful thing, and it has not been seen until recently in quite a while. And so they're looking for programs to help kids that are exceeding and performing above grade level. So that was fun.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, multiple of those events at the schools. I don't have it in front of me, but it would be nice if we have a calendar. Maybe I'll look it up while we're doing this. Let's make announcements at every board meeting on what's coming up this next week as far as, meetings that people can attend for those to understand the referendums piece of it. So, because there are good questions and really good interactions on that. And then also, multiple sporting events. We hosted sectionals for wrestling this week, we had a handful of really young guys that are freshmen, sophomores coming in that did really well, placed in that sixth grade place matches. And then we had two qualify, Quit in Oregon, and fortunately, my son Mason qualified for state in a couple weeks. Now the girls have sectionals this Friday night, and hopefully we push one or two of them through. So that'd be great. So.
Last time I forgot to mention, I went to the talent show at Parkside. So that was nice, just seeing students do what they enjoy, but still in the school setting. I think it's always cool when different schools offer children to show their unique talents. And then just different meetings, learning about the list of cuts that we're going to go through, and just finding things that least impact students.
Thank you. Mrs. May?
Yeah, so I attended also a couple of the referendum sessions last week. And then on Saturday, they had a jazz clinic hosted at our high school. And they had West Appear, Brilliant, and one other school there, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. And they had a group called New Nostalgia from Chicago that were the clinicians. And then, so the kids were busy all day doing a clinic, and then that night they put on a concert. So I went to that, and they did a fabulous job. So kudos to the Chris Barnes, Jake Opperman, and Austin Bolden. And it was really good. And then I was at high school this morning, and I went into an AP art class, and they have a sustained investigation question that they have to do that goes the whole year. And then they do an art piece that represents their answer or their findings, and they had all different mediums that they were using, and it was just really cool. And I'm looking at their art and going, yeah, I can do a stick figure maybe, because that was not my forte. And yeah, they just did a phenomenal job.
Thank you for sharing that. I saw on Facebook pictures of that. Also, kudos to the number of schools that are highlighting different events that are happening.
Yes.
On Facebook and other places. I love that because we can't be everywhere. What a great way to share. Thank you. Kudos to everyone who are putting out Facebook. Thank you for having my microphone on. And just appreciate that you're highlighting all the great things you're doing throughout our district and taking the time to do that. I know that takes extra time. As far as my engagement at schools, I spent time talking to principals and different leaders. I interviewed probably about 20 different people just to get some feedback. Again, very similarly to what other people are looking at as we're determining what cuts to make. So I didn't see students, but I talked to a whole lot of adults. All right, so,
Joe?
well, Joe was passed this time.
Okay, sorry. I'm
Nope,
sorry,
that's
I
okay.
didn't hear that.
All right, and then moving on to our second public comment. We are going to follow the same rules as we did prior to. And so we welcome you up if you'd like to share your name and address. Seeing none, we're going to move into other appropriate matters. And as far as other appropriate matters goes, did you pull up? I think, okay, you go for it, Mr. Henschel.
All right. So today's 16th. So tomorrow night, Tuesday, February 17th, Fond du Lac High School, 3:45, probably in the PAC, I'm guessing. So we would love to fill that place, for information. So 3:45, Fond du Lac High School, tomorrow night, Tuesday the 17th. Wednesday, February 18th, Riverside. That's an early morning one for people that have different schedules. So 7:30 a.m. where? It says 7:30 in
It
here.
says 7:30 in here.
Tyson says 7.
Tyson's at 7.
Riverside's at 7:30, Tyson's at 7.
Yeah. So where, do you know where? Cafeteria or just go to the front?
If they go to the front office, they'll be.
Go to the front office. Thursday, February 19th at Tyson at 7 a.m. I'm guessing in the auditorium because we have one there, or
And some of these are staff, and if the school offered another one, that's where the difference is. So
Okay.
I know Riverside's for APTT night is at night, and that's on, sorry.
For their family invite.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
Community
I'm sorry.
members.
No, you're okay.
So the early morning ones are probably for staff right
Correct.
before school?
Yep.
Gotcha. All right. And then we have Waters on Monday, the 23rd at 3:30, and Pyre Tuesday, February 24th at 3:30. And then next week, Wednesday, and this is probably another big one, is February 25th on Wednesday.
And we'll be at a meeting next week, so I think we can get those out to people next week. Just,
Right.
I want to make sure
Yep.
that the school ones are for everybody and not just
Yep.
the staff.
Yeah. And
And there-
high school community session. the five-
Yeah.
That one, so the two high school ones I want to make sure people know about. So February 25th, Wednesday, 5:30, Fond du Lac High School community session. I'll end on that one.
And there is one on February 19th as well at Marine Park Technical College. And so that is at E120, the VC Employee Training Room, and that's on National Ave. Are all of these dates and times on our website? All the ones that are welcome to the public? Hallie says, yes, they
Yes.
are. So if we went too fast, please go ahead and check that out. The one that is on February 19th is it's not on there yet?
No, I think
Okay.
was newly added, so.
It was newly added, but the three candidates that are running for school board, Antonio Godfrey, as well as Luke Tranel and myself, are hosting that along with Mr. Steinbarth. So we hope to see you at one of these events. Are there any other appropriate matters? Okay. Seeing none. There we go. If I could have a motion to adjourn to a workshop. However, I'm not sure how much time we need in between.
I think we're good to go.
Okay,
If everybody-
we are good to go. Then we will just take a 5-minute break.
We got to do the motion first.
Yep, so we'll make a motion, but I wanted to get that straight, and then we'll do a 5. So can I have a
All right.
motion, please?
I move to adjourn to a workshop to discuss budget reductions for 2026-27 vacancy appointment candidates.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Henschel, a second by Mr. Leverance. Can we please have the roll, please, Mrs. Main?
Maine, yes. Pinal,
Yes.
Frame,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Lavrance.
Yes.
Motor.
Yes, motion carries 6-0. So the regular meeting will be adjourned at 5:37, and we will come back at, I will say, 5:45. last time. I'd like to call to order the workshop of the Board of Education at 5:45. Mrs. Main, can we please have the roll call?
Frame,
Here.
Henschel,
Here.
Lavrance.
Here.
Main here, Pinell.
Here.
Motor.
Here. 6-0, we're all here. Just a reminder to put on your microphones, and thank you for reminding me when I missed it. And so we are moving into our second workshop in regard to budget reductions. And so, first of all, I know a lot of people did some research and looking, which is great. I know there are a number of people in the community and staff that are sending messages with ideas. So thank you for your time and energy. When we were last together, we had a vote on this agenda item that was 3-3 split, and therefore, because we don't have that additional member, was voted down. So then today we're coming back together, and I know Mrs. Pinell and Mr. Henschel and myself had voted for the reduction, including all of the pieces for it. And so Mr. Lavrance, Mrs. Main, and Mr. Tranel, I know you've done, Frame, sorry, the Lukes, Mr. Frame, have done some research. And so really, we're here to listen to things that you maybe learned, as well as questions you might have. It's important that we just learn and decide whichever route we're going. We're a uniformed board, and so that's why we're here today.
Yeah, I'm glad you said what you just said. I know some things were said that we didn't want to make cuts. I understand we have to make cuts, but I just needed to do some more work myself and figure some things out and just understand the meaning behind these cuts and not just lines on paper and numbers on paper and stuff like that. So just for my own, so I can sleep at night, to do that work. So that's why I voted the way that I did. I just personally needed to look into it some more things. And I did this past week, send out some emails, met with some people, really educated myself on what really entails with all these things that are on these lists. Learned more about what team leaders do, what their job entails, talked to a couple different ones in some different schools, and just talk to other people in the school. How do they feel that this will affect students day to day? Got some good information. I know I reached out to Mr. Gerlach about 2-to-1 from, so I guess we'll start with that, K to 2 devices, as in Chromebooks.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Frame. I'm going to defer this to Paul Hermes, our Director of Technology Services and Assessment.
Specifically, what questions do you have?
I'll pull up my email. So I was looking for numbers, if it would even save us money. I know you were tagged or brought into the email. Just give me a second. So what I was looking for, numbers, if any, would it save the district if we went from splitting devices in K through second grade?
Yep. So just a brief history of kind of what we've done in the last X amount of years to get us to where we are from a device perspective. Prior to about 3 years ago, devices were purchased at a building level through site funds, through PTO fundraising, through hand-me-downs from the high school. That was the approach to student devices at the elementary. And what that caused for us is disparity between buildings, as well as real difficulty in sustaining the fleet of devices because there wasn't necessarily a purchasing cycle. So the reason I give you that context is then to correct that. Every year we've been investing in a grade levels devices. We started with the third grade, That's the first year they take the forward exam, which is computer-based. And so that was the grade level that we started with at the elementary level. The following year was fourth grade, then fifth grade. Last year was second grade. And then the scope of it was going to be addressing devices then at the first grade level and the kindergarten level. So in your email, you talk about like if we weren't to buy for second grade, we don't buy every grade level every year. It's one grade level every year in a 7-year device cycle. And so that way it budgetarily is approachable for us. It's appropriate in terms of the life cycle of a device, licensing and so on. There's only a finite amount of years before Google pulls the plug on a device plus wear and tear. So on the budget sheet, if you see that 2-to-1 for devices for first grade, the savings would be about 82, so I would say roughly between $80,000 and $85,000 in savings if we went 2-to-1 in subsequent grade levels.
Okay. So next year, it would be in the purchasing plan, it'd be for first grade. So that's
Correct.
why that is on the budget cut.
Yep.
Okay.
So I got a question on that then. If you do that because there's 7-year cycles, does that mess up the following subsequent cycles and everything? So if it's a domino effect then, correct, as far as cycles? It'd be a 1-year fix, but then we have subsequent every year, we'd have other issues then, right?
Correct, unless you're making the strategic decision of a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 students per 1 device at the youngest grade level is what we want to do moving forward. But otherwise, Mr. Henschel, you're right, we have a backup problem that happens, and that's kind of what we had in a lot of our technology in the classroom when we started the tech plan 3 years ago, was that backup effect. There were years where it wasn't invested in, and then we had a really big bill to try to figure out without a referendum to support it, like a lot of school districts do. That's why we've taken that incremental approach to try to say year by year we can address these areas. But yes, any of these delays in the technology purchasing is creating a problem in years to come when those things are going to come due to be replaced.
Because I know when you first came on board, I know I just got on the school board 4.5 years ago. We had no business plan around technology and purchasing, and that was one of the marching orders we gave you right away was, what's a 1-year, what's a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year technology plan, so we could try to budget in future years versus having to go to referendum just for technology, and because they had to do that in the past. So I know that was meant to be that way. Now, the other piece of that is, kindergartners or first graders, how much are they using them, and what's the whole piece around that then too?
Certainly less than a 8th grader or a senior.
Yeah.
And so it is a time for us to have that conversation about the youngest grade levels. But as you know, as you're in classrooms, the technology that we're talking about aren't luxury items. These aren't virtual reality goggles or other just cool, things for kids. These are the tools they use to access the curriculum. And so there is a conversation about accessibility in a classroom for all kids to have access to the curriculum that they're working on. But certainly, especially in different budgetary times than we were 3 or 4 years ago, it is definitely worth a conversation. That's part of, quite honestly, why it's on the list for us to reconsider as we're in this spot to look at a different device ratio at the youngest grade levels.
Can I ask a clarifying,
I was going to just ask, what is the student-to-device ratio throughout the elementary grades for each grade level?
Well, it's twofold. One would be, as it relates to the technology plan, again, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 2nd grade, 1-to-1.
Okay.
Right now, kindergarten, 1st grade have devices for every student. But what we've done is, as we've purchased for a grade level, or as the senior devices, when the students leave Fond du Lac High School, any devices that are still salvageable, which after 4 years of student use, not all of them are in the pristine condition.
Right.
We've cycled some of those devices back down to the kindergarten and first grade level. So right now, they're 1-to-1 K-5 at the elementary, but only purchased 2 through 5, if that makes sense. The rest are borrowed as other grade levels. So for example, last year when we bought for second grade, we looked at the second grade fleet, all the second grade classrooms, and picked out the best devices that we could then cycle down to kindergarten and first grade.
Okay, and then are all the kids K through 5 able to take those devices home, or are they meant just for at school?
They're meant for just at school. It's part of why we were able to get a 7-year device cycle out of them. We approach devices that do go home, which is 6 through 12. They have about a 4-year life cycle, again, just because of use, wear and tear.
Right.
But because the elementary students' devices stay at school, we can get a lot of years more out of them.
My son just got a new one, so his can be recycled in May, because it's only going to be 3 months old.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty standard practice for school districts that have devices that take home. A 4-year device cycle on a Chromebook,
It's stretching
is an
it.
appropriate life cycle.
It's very
for it.
stretching it.
So I have a clarification question on the cuts, the 82,500, that's a 2-to-1. That is instead of replacing all of them, because that's where we're at in the life cycle, we're suggesting that we just replace half of them. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that would save 82,000. And then if we're doing that for first grade, I'm assuming we would do the same thing for the year after, which again would save us 82,000 for kindergarten.
Correct.
And are we able to meet our students' curriculum needs if they're 2-to-1?
I mean, again, it's got to be a conversation that we have with our elementary folks. What my plan would be is this would be your purchase devices, and then I would hope we would be able to backfill those with existing devices so that we could have a higher or better ratio for even our elementary, first grade, and kindergarten levels with some already purchased devices.
Okay, thank you.
So in short on that was the ones that are still working, we'd keep using,
Correct.
basically, right?
Yep.
All right, that makes sense.
Use them till they don't work anymore, basically.
Right. Or they get
Or
to a
obsoleted.
point.
Yeah.
So Google has a licensing you buy when you buy the device. After, so it's like if you've ever had a phone that no longer accepts the latest app updates because it's just too old. The phone works fine, but Apple or Android says, well, too bad, you need a new phone now. Google has something similar with Chromebooks.
Yeah, and I would imagine that'd be a security issue then, potentially too, because they stop getting the updates, so,
Absolutely
you know,
correct.
then you're leaving a back door open, yeah.
Yep.
So one of the things we see with the library media specialists, if we cut those, change the DDI schedule, what does that look like?
If you want to, Nate, go ahead, otherwise I can add in too, but.
Yep. So, actually, our first year, when we sent our first cohorts to University of Virginia, we had to find a chunk of time and dedicate that time to DDI. What we had available to us was an encore period. It was 45 minutes. So I know Chegwin, Parkside, we were playing around with making it work during this 45-minute encore time. We were blessed with the opportunity to extend that this last year to an extended amount of time. This would basically force us to transition back to that 45-minute chunk of time during encore. The nice thing about that, though, is with an elementary school, you also have that Tuesday time that's dedicated to planning after school. So it'd be some work, you know, with our team to organize how that looks, but it potentially could work with a 45-minute chunk of time going over the data and then planning time after school on Tuesdays. So we feel confident that we could design a system or support a system where that would still work.
And then also with our academic planning day, not having to have the first half of the day dedicated to Cox campus right now, which was a state mandate that we had to make sure all teachers were trained. We should have more time for professional development or opportunities for our teachers to discuss those a little bit more in detail as well.
That is correct. This year, we've been limited with the amount of time we've had with our building leaders have been limited with the amount of time due to the half-day mandatory training that they have to do with Cox Campus. Next year, the message is going to be, use that time with your staff to build skills and do some professional learning with your staff.
And then, as far as the library being open, kids being in there, what would that look like in a school day? Would the libraries be open? How would they check out books? How would that process go?
So part of the proposal for the cuts is the hiring of 2 library media secretaries to try to do exactly what you just described, is to ensure that the libraries are open with less people there to cover. And so we anticipate with the existing 3 and the additional 2 plus the district librarian, that we could ensure that libraries are open as the same amount of time that they are this year, with library media specialists who currently share buildings that are there every other day.
I spoke with some middle school leadership members, and they said currently the ELA teachers, oftentimes the ELA teachers, because right now there's only 50% of the time, is during their ELA time, they'll come and check out books.
And then, I know it's in the red, technology plan purchasing freeze. Would we be running into a similar scenario of what we were talking about with the Chromebooks freezing, and then that would put us behind in the future?
Yeah, that one's in red because if we have to, or we chose to go that route, what you just described would be bad across all fronts. This would include staff devices, student devices, classroom projection in classrooms. All of that would have to be paused. And then right now we're punting a problem down to another year where we're going to have more than one of those cycles that have to be replaced at the same time. So that budgetary impact would be quite significant. Part of the tech plan was to try to avoid that very scenario, where we can anticipate what it's going to be annually every year. If we do that, we're creating a double problem the following year.
And as Paul kind of said there as well, sorry, as Paul had mentioned as well, with some of our curriculum resources that we currently have in place right now, at the high school specifically, it is all digitally based. So if we get to a spot where we can't keep things operating at the level that it is, that's going to be a very difficult situation to be in. And I know there were some people that mentioned as well, like going back to books and hard copies and things like that, the investment that would take would far exceed right now what we're looking at that way, because you'd have to do that. Again, we had been a district for a long time that did not have curriculum at the 9-12 level that was really justifiable to teach students. We're in an amazing spot, and that's K-12 right now, and I think that shows with our results right now too.
Okay. So I did find out the answer to this today when I was at the high school is that all the teachers at the high school, for their displays, they have ViewSonics on wheels right now, but none of them are mounted, correct? And so that's what we're looking at, is mounting them. And one of our cuts is to delay half the classroom displays. Well, if we, and that's $155,000. If we delay the whole high school, is that just doubled then, or what would that?
Yeah, great question. Just clarification as to what the high school has. So similar to student devices, we took an incremental approach to classroom projection. So again, for context, what we're talking about are interactive LCD screens, a Chromebox, which basically allows the screen to be a computer, a document camera, and a wireless keyboard and mouse. I think about this meeting right here. We're sitting in a room that's full of devices and displays. If you're in meetings at work or in the community, you're having some visual. That's been the model that we've pursued. We started at the elementary level. One year was 5 of the elementaries that got that set up. And then those schools had purchased ViewSonic boards previously. Those were on carts. We wheeled them to the other 4 elementaries and STEM that first year to make K-5 1-to-1 in that setup. The following year, we purchased for the remaining 4 elementaries and STEM, and then we took all the ViewSonics that were on carts, and through tremendous collaboration with facilities, we literally moved all of them to the middle schools so that the middle school had ViewSonics on carts. Then the next budget cycle, we did that at the middle school, and then we took all of those on carts and put them up at the high school. So what's currently in high school classrooms are the hand-me-ups from elementary and middle schools, previous investment in ViewSonics, and that's just the brand, interactive LCD screens, that were in those schools that didn't need them because the tech plan came through to standardize that approach. Your point about mounting them, it was decided at the K-8 level for accessibility. Having them mounted and movable was more accessible for all kids. You've been in little shaver classrooms. I was just in one today where the board can be brought down and a kindergartner can interact with that screen. They couldn't when they were on carts. So the plan is, because the high school is so big, to try to make this budgetarily be the same year after year. The equivalent replacement levels for the phases would be half the high school. So the high school would be done in 2 phases.
Right.
So when it said half the high school, just maybe bad language needed to be clear, meant that that would be 1 phase of the high school, and then the second phase of the high school would be the remaining. So that number that you see in green would be as pausing that initial install for half of the high school classrooms,
Okay.
not half of the high school, yeah.
So it's really stretching
Yeah.
the budget a little bit more. And I know I was probably the only one on the board at the time. When I first got, we had the acuity grants. And that one year we had almost we had pages full of
Oh, yeah.
requests for these.
Yeah.
That teachers wanted them. And part of the solution was, it was already and it was all mostly at the high school that people requested them, I believe, through
Correct.
the acuity grant, was, hey, it's coming. We have our plan in motion, our technology plan. Here's the 3-year, and you just got to be patient with us because it's coming your way. But that was all part of that long-term budgeting and long-term planning for that. So I just remember, stack like this of all ViewSonic requests. Were you on the board at the
No,
time?
but I was over there, and
Yeah.
I remember looking
It was
through them.
just like ViewSonic, and we're like, is this an issue? And that was one of the solutions. Well, this is part of our overall planning. This is what it looks like. This is the plan. And we're like, so we didn't fund it through the acuity grant.
So to clarify, then, we're saying we're not going to do it right now.
That's what's that
That's
budget
what's-
line.
We would do it over
proposed.
2 years versus 1 year.
No, we wouldn't
No,
do it
we
at
wouldn't
all.
do it
Wouldn't do it
at
at
all.
all.
Oh,
So it wouldn't be.
So again, we're
Yeah.
Pausing it.
Right. That
we're somewhat
makes more
punting a
sense.
problem. We're punting a problem in this case. And then I just wanted to also add, just for your consideration, we're using the term ViewSonic again. I probably shouldn't do that because it's not company specific. But all classrooms at the high school and all of our other schools always had invested in some version of classroom projection, whether it was a tube TV, and a smart board, an LCD projector with a pull-down screen. And these all came from district budgets, right?
Right.
Allocated to the schools and the schools invested in them. And so this is just trying to systematize that investment, make it efficient and predictable and sustainable. But these are going to be costs in a modern-day classroom that we're going to incur regardless of what the particular platform is. We're just trying to do it in a way that we can sustain, replicate, rely on, and not have those big budget buster years of, oh, no, they're
Right.
all coming due at the same time.
So, and I'm glad you asked that clarifying question because that does help. So I just want to clarify too, at the beginning, when you started talking was, you talked about LCD screens, Chromebox, and a couple other things. Would that be in on this also, or is it just the big displays?
That's the classroom setup all in,
Okay,
all of the items.
what else did you say besides LCD screens, Chromebox?
Yep, document camera.
Oh, yeah.
So you can take a student work or whatever
Right,
else and project it on. And then a wireless keyboard and mouse so that you can operate
Okay.
the ViewSonic either by touch
Right.
or by your own desk or by a kid's desk.
So my question on follow-up is, we rely on the administration to evaluate needs, to help with the students get best outcome. And this is green, so you're looking at eliminating this. How will this affect, or do we have a plan to help with the academic piece, that it's not going to affect the academic piece of this? I'm assuming you guys, it's on here because you've already kind of planned that out on how you're going to get around that to make sure that we're still getting the academic piece that we need to deliver.
Yep. I guess my response would be twofold. One, it's a similar feeling to how I feel about the proposed cuts to the library media team. These aren't cuts that any of us want to do. With the technology plan, does this make me nervous about what position that this might put us in? Yes. Fond du Lac High School, our flagship building, right, the one that probably is your biggest draw for open enrollment and so on, is the one that we're saying we're going to stop investing in. That's not a good thing. However, we have to make tough decisions. So putting this on there, I've already started engaging with my team about how could we make this work for one more year. Thankfully, we do have ViewSonic boards from the elementary and middle school that literally were on wheels, and we could wheel them into the classrooms. And if we can figure out a way to breathe a little bit more life into them for an additional year, but I want to kind of preface that optimism with a dose of reality of we can't keep doing that. That's going to come due at some point. Because right now, our high school classrooms will have an inferior setup than we do in the rest of our district. And in a school where we want to try to focus on student achievement and growth, that's not the ideal setup for our high school.
And, sorry, with that, just to put it on the table, one of the conversations that we had as an exec team was we know that there's a conversation about closing a school or schools. So you've asked this before as well.
Yeah.
Planning forward
Right.
to make a decision that, planning forward to make those decisions that those may be able to be adjusted and put into a different location in the future as well. So that's kind of the entire context of that process as well.
So, okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question
can.
too? So this was something I wanted to bring up during this time anyway, is, and it is not directly related, and I think it is, I know we've talked about closing schools, and so one of the things that I was going to bring forward is to ask Mr. Steinbarth and his team to bring to our next meeting what it would look like to close 2 schools, not this coming year, but the year after. So next year would be a planning year with, and this is as long as the referendum goes through, that if you can bring a plan on not what schools, because you're still looking through that, but what is the timeline for closing schools? For just what you said, if we know we're going to close 2 schools, whatever they are, and we know that all elementary and middle have similar LCD projectors and so forth, can those then be transferred up to the high school? So that was something that I thought I'd ask for. Not that we're voting on it, but we're bringing forward a plan.
And with that, and they're both in here right now, but with Mr. Blaskowski as well as Ms. Lombardo, we've had a number of discussions, and I don't like to, as we've talked about, it's going to take some time. We are already well on our way of what that could potentially look like by looking at where our population currently is with an interactive map that, again, Mike had shared something that was amazing and wowed all of us, and then Marissa did her own little spin on the things that she likes to do. So we can share some of our thinking already that we've been doing around that as soon
That'd be great.
as you direct us to that. You want to see kind of where our thoughts have been up to this point even.
So I'm only one member of the board, but as one member of the board, I'd like to see that, if possible, at our next meeting, because if we're making these changes, how do we also tell the community that, yes, we're going to be closing schools? So that's one person.
Well,
Yeah, I'd
and,
like that.
and
Okay.
you're looking at security, you know, investments at each school, and if we don't have a school open, then we're saving money there too, then on the security piece, so that makes sense. Sorry.
So we're not voting, and how many people are interested in seeing that at our next meeting? Say yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Yep.
at our next meeting, we'll be able to share that in a workshop format? Absolutely. Perfect.
And I thought of my follow-up question.
Good.
Thank you. So, and you might have mentioned this, so going back to the displays real quick, how old are the displays that are at the high school right now?
They vary because they came from 12 different buildings, but most of them are at least 4 years old, some about 6 or 7
Okay.
years old. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which-
that's
right.
probably my best estimation
Yeah.
about their age.
Yeah, and with technology, we all know that after 7 years, yeah, it gets dicey.
Part of our strategic, as we're trying to rethink this, is the board itself, the TV, for lack of a better description, has a little longer life. It's the brains of it that start failing. So that Chrome box, without getting super techie here, that Chrome box is the brains.
Okay.
That's at a very different price point than the board itself. And so we've talked about maybe there's a way we can sort of Frankenstein some of these to replace that part of it to try to get a little
Oh,
bit more life
right.
into those boards.
Yeah. And then this last week, when I've talked to several people and everything at the high school, a lot of teachers do like their displays on wheels, especially like science teachers. I heard that they like to be able to take it from the front of the room to the back where their lab is and be able to wheel it around. A couple other people had told me that also. Would that be a possibility, that it doesn't have to be wall mounted and we can keep some on when we get to this point?
Yes.
know?
Yep. We had this conversation at each one of the levels as we went up. At the elementary level, the accessibility piece, because of just student versus teacher height,
Yes.
is such a
Yeah.
factor. Less of an issue at the high
I
school.
appreciate that. And I wish I was still teaching so I could do that, because
We-
I had to use step stools for my smart boards.
Right, or we have teacher back problems, right? It's
Right.
one of the two things.
Right.
At the high school, you have less of those issues.
Right.
So certainly it can be, from a price point perspective, cart to a mount is pretty interchangeable.
That's
They're
what I
not
was just
exactly
gonna
the
ask.
same,
Okay.
but pretty close. You know, one of the limitations to the idea of it on a cart is it sounds like it's something that we could move around a lot, keeping in mind that it still has to be plugged in. So there's some limitations to where it goes. And it's also one of those human behavior things where when I first moved in my house, I thought, yeah, we could move around the living room or whatever. And the couches are in the same spot that they are when we moved in. So there is that consideration when we're looking at it, but certainly that's an option. It is like all of in our elementary levels, in some of our like art rooms where the space is different, PE spaces, carts certainly are a consideration for the high school.
Okay, thank you.
At break, I know Mr. Groves did answer my question on the virtual. I just thought of that. I'm like, well, why don't we announce, and what was that number? 197 students we right now lose to virtual. So if you do the multiplication of 11,300 and some per student, you're looking at, basically 2.3 million, rough number, out of my head, right? Maybe more, 2.5, something like that. So, yeah.
So our goal for our workshop, I would say, is that we determine what cuts we want to bring forward in a motion for our next meeting together. I think it's really important. From our conversations, it sounds as if everyone on the board understands the importance of making cuts. We have the 3.5 million. It was how to make the cuts are the conversations that people wanted to learn more about. And so,
I get a question. So the one we have today in front of us that's green, is it the same? I was trying to go back and forth. Is the original, so the green is still the 3.5 million that we originally were looking at, correct? We didn't, I was trying to go back and forth.
Yeah. Yep, so I want to apologize, my microphone was off again. What I just said to the board is the goal of our workshop is to come away with a question to bring forward to our next board meeting on cuts, because we all believe and understand the importance that we need to make $3.5 million in cuts. It is the question of what will be cut to make that amount. That's why our workshop is here. That's why we wanted to do some more digging. What's in front of us today is the last time we came together and made a vote, it was the administration's suggestion that we brought forward, and we could vote yes or no, and we did that. Coming forward now, it will be our motion. What does the school board recommend that we're bringing forward to cuts? Because the last one was the administration, which was voted down. The next one we bring forward will be our team is bringing forward the motion. Does that make sense? And so we want to make sure that we have conversation that we all understand so that our motion comes forward and we're united however we move. We each have our own vote. You make your vote however you make your vote, but we want to make sure everybody has the knowledge they need to make a decision when that vote comes forward. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just saw a couple other questions that
Great.
I have to help me with that.
Sure.
So if we would cut, let's say, just, because we're going from 7 to 1, it was the original suggestion for media specialists. What if we went from 7 to 3 or to 2, so we can at least still, that elementary level, especially for digital, I'm blanking on the word, digital literacy, thank you. Word finding is hard as you get older. But anyway, that's really important at that age, and I'm just afraid that we're not going to be able to cover that, even with our library secretaries, because that's not in their wheelhouse. So what would that save us if we stayed with 2 or 3 and have one at each, level? Because if I know that, that's going to help me know if we can move something. But yeah. Does that make sense?
So I think then the question would be if we determine to, instead of cut 6, cut 3 or cut 4. Am I saying that correctly?
So I got a question then.
Well,
It would be where are we getting the money to fill that?
Yes,
right,
so I was
right.
going to ask
Well-
what that dollar is.
Well, that's
first,
why I
right?
want to know that, because then I'm going to, because I have notes to take, of things to swap with it, but I needed to know the number. I didn't know a number. So,
Mrs. Main, if you look up at the top of that list, there's a box up there that lists the average salary and benefits that are used in all the calculations for staff.
okay.
So that's the salary and the benefit package for each. Library media specialists are in the teacher group, so the average salary and benefits used was $85,859. If you were to cut 4 library media specialists instead of.
Marissa, can I ask you a question though? They're probably at the lower, I mean, when I did the math, if you do the 386 to 376 divided by 6, right? That's what I was doing. So,
But you have to hire the 2 library media secretaries then.
oh, I gotcha. Okay, so that's the offsetting. So let's use, all right, I know where you're going then with the 85. I just wanted to understand because I was like, all right.
And I
Yeah.
think it also
All right,
depends
makes sense.
on, we have different library media specialists with different background, different
Right.
licensure,
Right.
and that all matters.
This is still just an estimate
Yep.
based
Right,
off of.
because, and that's why I didn't want to go exactly based on this, because I know with, and it depends on how long they've been here and that kind of thing. So that's why I thought I would ask it, because you would have better numbers than I would.
So,
Yeah, so if you were to cut 4 library media specialists, that would be 342,526. And if you were to cut 5, leaving 2, that would be 427,385. And then you
But
would
then you'd add
offset
this-
with the
yeah.
number of, yeah. The proposal is to hire 2 library media secretaries, so depending on how many library media specialist positions were eliminated, that might affect the number of library media secretaries you would want to hire to offset.
Okay, so the number you're giving me is what's being eliminated, the cost. What would we save?
That's what it would be.
Okay, okay.
can you
'Cause
repeat
'cause
those
what
again?
you're
Yeah.
saving, what you're saving there is the salary and benefits of the personnel. When you look at that number for cut library, 6 library media specialists, hire 2 library media specialists.
Right,
It's the salary and benefits of the 6 library media specialists, and then adding back in the salary and
Right.
benefits for the 2 secretaries.
so
is where
that's
that number comes
386,
from.
376. But then you're telling me if we cut 4, we're saving 342, and I didn't get the last 3 numbers on that.
526.
Yeah, that would be 342,526. And that number is just the salary and benefits for the library media specialist. It does not include anything for library media.
Secretaries.
Secretaries.
Okay, and then the 5 is 427. So this is what I'm having trouble with. That number is higher than this number. So we
Because
would
that-
save more.
Because that number has to also account for the secretaries.
The hiring,
One of the questions was, how do we have service to the libraries at all?
Right.
So if we would only have 3, and if you have 1 at the high school, 1 at the middle school, 1 at the elementary school, the library would not have anybody in there when
Okay,
they're.
so you're not factoring in the hiring of the 2.
Correct.
Correct. We
Okay.
did in the initial list that we gave you.
Right.
But then when you alter the number of library media specialists that you gave me, then we would have to go back and reevaluate and decide how many
Okay.
secretaries we would need to hire
Okay,
to offset that.
okay. All right.
Just briefly, making cuts is a very difficult decision. Yet nevertheless, we concur that we need to cut 3.5. And the board's responsibility is basically twofold. One, doing everything you can within the financial resources that you have to assure these students and the entire student body an academic learning experience. And 2, to provide that with them in a safe environment. And it's so difficult. I see us, perchance, getting lost by looking at the trees and not the forest. And because of that, we did charge the administration, and this is their recommendation, to provide this. I think that we certainly have the right and need to look at options, but if we tell them to give us a suggestion, and then we start going through it line by line by line, it's confusing to me as to why we asked them to do it in the first place. So I recommend, I guess, that I'm saying let's do this, but be careful not to get lost in the trees and not look at the forest.
Mr. Lavrens, do you have any questions or suggestions as we're starting to, I know,
I was gonna say, most of what I had questions on has been answered, so.
Okay.
I feel pretty good.
so you feel good with the green ones that are sitting in front of us today?
Well, as good as you can with this type of thing, but I think it seems like the best options, unfortunately,
Okay.
because I don't think we have better that I could find.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Main, any other questions that you want to bring forward? And is there, you also made a suggestion. The suggestion if we're to look at that suggestion, then the part would be then where do we fill that amount from? And it sounds like we know it's about 85,000, but that then is less of a media secretary, right? So there'd be some money taken off of that. So that makes me think, I don't know, but it would make me think it would be more like 60,000 if that's only if we keep two. Okay, so that was just a
Right.
thought.
Right.
Do you have any other questions or suggestions? And if you're to recommend the two, where would that other 60,000? And I can give you pause because I just asked you a bunch of questions and my mic was on. So in the meantime, Mr. Frame,
How many instructional tech coaches do we have in the district?
2.
2. And is there any overlap there with media specialists and that position?
They work collaboratively, but I think the primary responsibilities are very different.
Okay. Because from my understanding, a lot of my library media specialists do help teachers and students with technology questions and helping them get through that, right?
I think that that does happen. I don't know if that's a consistent practice. A lot of the tech support is members in my department. If my insert, whatever it is, isn't working, it's often a Mojo ticket.
Okay.
And then the technology instructional coaches are specifically working with pedagogy, working with teachers on how can you instruct using the tools that they have at their disposal to engage kids. That's a very specific teaching element where library media specialist certainly is something that they can also do, but I wouldn't say is anywhere close to the majority of their job.
Okay. And then just how many tech system specialists do we have?
We have 5, and then we have a network manager.
Okay. So they mainly deal with maintenance and use of technology systems across the district. So is there overlap with the instructional tech and the tech system specialists?
There is, but it's the area of expertise. The tech coaches are instructional experts. They're educators with master's degree in education. The individuals, the tech system specialists, are people with background in technology, computer programming, software, network systems, all the behind-the-scene things to make the internet work, to make system safety work, to ensure that our students are safe online, our systems are protected, those kinds of things. Those would be more of the technical parts.
Okay.
Serving the district.
And then just last question. If we did reduce the 6 non-student AP days from the instructional assistant work calendar, what would that all entail?
So you're saying
I can help you with that. Each of our employment groups has a specific calendar with a number of days that they work during a school year. Currently, our instructional assistants work 188 days in a year, and they are, those academic planning days are part of their calendar. Those are opportunities for professional development sometimes. Sometimes they're helping out teachers, doing other things, but we think that they probably don't need to attend those days. We can find other times for them to get professional development. It's a way to save a couple of days out of a working calendar. So it would just reduce their number of work days, and then it would be the cost per day to pay their salary and benefits would be the savings.
Okay.
Can I ask you?
Would they,
oh, there, it's
would
down
they
in
still
yellow.
be
Thank you.
benefit eligible, the instructional assistants?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, the number of work days doesn't affect whether they are benefit eligible or not. They have to work 30 or more hours in a week. to
It
be-
does affect their income though, right?
It would affect their income
And
over the
we
year.
pay them very little already, correct?
The base rate that we're using to hire instructional assistants at this point is $17.92 an hour.
Which is way below everybody else, by the way. My daughter-in-law is an instructional assistant in another district nearby, and it's over 20. So we pay them.
We're really in the median area. There are other districts that pay much less than we do, and there are other districts that pay much more than we do. It just
Okay.
kind of depends on the district. They are our lowest paid group. I don't think there's any getting around that. That is what it is.
Yeah. No, I do, I do hear from, I know when we talked about reducing them a couple years ago as a budget cut, our emails got overloaded from teachers saying how valuable they are in the classroom. And I see Karen, I'm not in the classroom, so I
Absolutely,
don't
yes.
know.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't know how important, but I have
Yeah.
heard that from other, professionals in
Yeah,
the district. that-
Yeah, and on those AP days, I know if they're not in professional development, they are prepping a lot of things for the teachers
Okay.
to have for those kids that they are supporting, because they may need extra accommodations or whatever, and so they're prepping that kind of thing for them. And yes, they're essential.
Yeah. And how many do we have?
I believe we've got about 60 at this point.
60?
Let
And
me get you a
compared-
number
yeah.
here. Hang on one sec.
As she
No,
looks
we got
this,
more than that. Actually, our special education IAs, we have 76 of those. We have another 14 that work in our health rooms as health room IAs. We also have 11 translators, 3 educational interpreters, and 13 regular education IAs who work as study hall monitors, as well as IAs for our 4K programs.
so.
So we're
I'm gonna-
impacting over 100 people.
116
But
altogether.
however, in my role, in my position, I do audits for districts, specifically on paraprofessionals, and we are in a very mid of the row compared to other districts. And then in my role, we also, the districts in CESA 6 compare amount of teachers and paraprofessionals, and for the size of our district, we are not overstaffed in paraprofessionals, in my opinion.
I didn't know we had that many. I didn't realize, you think of how many people you're going to affect for the dollars that we're looking at. That's over 100 people that we're going to affect.
And we're
income-wise.
thinking of some of the classrooms that we have students who are nonverbal, non-ambulatory in beds full-time, and you need at least 2 adults, if not 3 adults, when you're transferring kids. So we service all kids.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Does someone want to make a recommendation that we bring forward a motion for our next meeting together? Or is there any other questions or anything else you'd like to discuss?
So you're saying that we would need about another 85,000, or,
That's just what
okay,
I don't know the exact numbers. It seemed between 60 and 85,
okay.
just from what I
Per-
skimmed.
Per,
For one.
yeah, per
Yeah.
additional?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me rephrase that, just so I know. So if we have 6 listed here, and I'm just going to help try to rephrase it for Karen, if you want to make it 5 instead of 6, each one of those steps would be about $85,000. All right, so if you want, like Karen, you mentioned you wanted to keep 3, 1 at each level, then you were looking at
Yeah.
170,000. All right, I just wanted to
Yep.
clarify that.
No, I appreciate that.
I had to say it out loud for myself.
Yeah.
So some of the things, as we talked, digital literacy was a big component. We talked about access to libraries. So if we move in the direction of having our original vote, that we'd still have students being able to check out books and having books in their hands. The other question had to do with digital literacy, and how do we ensure students have digital literacy was another big component we talked about.
Yeah, and I'll use another word, digital citizenship, right? Those terms can be used interchangeably. They're currently taught through the DDI classes at the elementary level. That isn't a structure we've had for years and years. That's a relatively recent thing. Nate, Mr. Groves and I have already talked about, from a teaching and learning perspective, without that DDI structure and those classes to teach that explicitly, it's going to be a conversation in our scope and sequence in our curriculums. That is a skill kids have to have, no doubt about it. And we're just going to have to be intentional about how do we integrate it into the classrooms of all of our schools, in all of our classrooms, which happens already, but in a formal way would have to be part of scope and sequence of a curriculum.
I mean, it just makes me think about the AI handbook that you just brought forward, and how explicit that was on making good decisions when using AI and so forth. So that's an example of embedding it within curriculum. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So if I could just have an explanation, and I didn't send this one out before because it just came to me now. What would the professional development freeze for 1 year entail?
Well, Mrs. Main, I mean, I think when you talk about freezes, you know, as we've said before, they really ultimately are very temporary in nature, and because you really, to make it pay, quote unquote, probably got to consider it as a 4-year type of thing. I think that's what Mr. Hermes, I'm not trying to overstate what he said. I think you kind of grasp that a freeze is really, really temporary, and we were very cautious about that. Professional development is, we hear this. We heard that feedback. I'm sure you're saying, well, you know, we've done a lot. We've invested in a lot of it. And we would simply say, no conference registrations, no sending you out to any kind of professional development. We would probably, and I can't speak to this, do as much as in-house as we could. And frankly, we don't really, you know, anytime we say a freeze there, we just don't think it's very sustainable in the long term, which is why, unless we're willing to take that down over the long term, I think that is something we would recommend you think about. Mr. Steinbarth?
And that, just to put it into context as well, it could go as far then as a school board convention, those things where you get those opportunities. Like, there are things that right now, I'll be honest, we don't have on the docket that we're going to be doing, but you don't know what comes down, that all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh, we have to have some people that get trained on this. For instance, 2 years ago, it was Act 20. It didn't have to be implemented yet, but we needed people on staff that knew what needed to happen before that took place. We don't always know what that's going to look like, or if all of a sudden we'd have an audit with our special education services that they're like, hey, you need to improve this for your staff, and then it's something you have to do. Some of it we could probably say we're not doing it yet, But there are other things that would be really hard to say, no, we're not going to do in that vein as well. And again, I think people saw UVA, Avid, some of those things are already taken off, and that's where a lot of things had been, so.
I just want to add on that one is, we want to encourage our teachers to be the best teachers they can be in front of our students. And, you know, if they're learning themselves and they're teaching learners and they're developing, that makes them better teachers, which brings a better offering to our students, which hopefully we get a better result. Yeah, I struggle with, like you said, it's a one-year thing, and I think if I'm an employee and I'm interviewing with someone and they say, yeah, we have a freeze on professional development, we're not doing those things, we're not offering those things, I'm looking in the mirror going, is this a place I really want to be? Because they're not investing in me as an employee and as a professional. I'd probably find a different place to go. And that's just my personal opinion on that one. And I know we did some incentives or, did some things to encourage people to do that, with, in their compensation and that, because we want them to be, developed.
And that was a comment that came out of our teacher retention specialists over and over again with our new teachers, that how valuable it was to have somebody to lean on. And so, yes, Mr. Henschel, I mean, that's something that we also are planning for. How do we incorporate some of the things that they had done, whether it's resetting a classroom and giving that mentorship that way as well. And those are all things that we have to look at our own selves and say, how are we going to accomplish some of these things that we had done in the past? And again, any of these reductions are going to have an impact on what we do. It's not going to look the same as it did. And I think that's the conversations that we had repeatedly of, we might not have all the answers right now, and especially without knowing what a vote would look like. But we also are prepared to make sure that whatever comes up, that we will be ready for.
And when I process this and just kind of throw it out there, I look at it as, like you said, it would have been great if we would have got things done last year, right? And then we'd be in a different boat here, having different conversations, and just marching forward with the great results and the great academics and that we've had. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So I look at it and go, what can we limit impacts on students? What's the least amount of impact on outcomes and long-term helping our kids become, graduates and, good in society with the least amount of impact to individuals like teachers or people losing their jobs, things like that. Or, the good thing is, I think, even if we look at, library media, it's not something we, like you said, it's not something we want to do. However, it's 6 people, not, professional development. Now you're impacting 600, individuals. So I'm looking at, all right, we can impact 6, but we can also find places for them to fit somewhere else within our district, so we're not really impacting their professional growth either. It's just going to be redirected, right? So those are the things I start going through, and anytime you start messing with people's pay, they usually find a different place to go, and we want to keep our good teachers that we invested a lot of money into, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to say is, first of all, Joan, I agree with you. I don't want to get lost in the trees for the forest. But I also, I wanted to, kind of like Luke, I wanted to just have more answers. And, and anytime, like you say, Mark, anytime we are dealing with people's lives and livelihoods and that it's hard. So as much as I would love to see us go to 2 media specialists instead of just 1, I'm not able to find where else we can, because I got answers tonight that made sense, that I thought things differently on here, and now I'm having a better understanding. So like I said, I would love to go to 2. But I'm not finding what am I going to replace that with. So, yeah.
So one of the things I'm learning as school board president this year is after we had that original workshop, making sure that I connect in with everyone to make sure, because sometimes we learn things and then more things pop up in the importance that we can have back-to-back workshops, and that's all right. And so now that I know that, as we continue to have hard conversations to get the time, but I think it's important to ask questions. It matters, and that's why we're here. So thank you for that.
And in this situation, I wish we had more time too, you know. Unfortunately, with the referendum coming up, we have to start communicating to the public. And, you know, I think it's critical that we do come together and make a decision. And I'm open to whatever. I'm struggling to find that replacement that you're saying. And where it doesn't have a bigger impact on kids or a bigger impact on a bigger, broad number of people, you know, and stuff like that. But yeah, I hope, you know, we can come together in next week and, you know, so we can start talking to the community and having those meetings, you know, on the referendum. This is what we're doing. This is what yeah, it didn't help having the press here last time. It was bad press online. We got bad press from, you know, Green Bay stations and stuff like that on, you know, people started asking a lot of questions. So hopefully,
As far as good press goes, I really appreciate the partnership with FEA and with staff talking to us and with everybody asking questions. And I appreciate that we're having workshops publicly to have these conversations.
well, and those are more local. So that they actually live here and actually influence the people that were posting it all over the place are out of town, which kind of frustrates me too, because it's like, all right, this doesn't impact your lives. It doesn't impact your community. It impacts our community that we all live in and our lives and our kids. So
Then what I'm going to recommend from what has been shared, that the board will bring forward their recommendation, which would be the current green section, for a vote for next week. Does anybody have more questions, or are you able to make a decision moving forward? Everybody's able to make a decision? Okay. Then we will bring forward at our next board meeting a motion that would be the school board's recommendation on that green section. So thank you. We will also be getting workshop information regarding what it looks like to close 2 schools. If the referendum goes through, then that would be the year after is ideally what we'd like to do, so we have time to do things right. So moving on to, that was the first section of our budget reductions. The second part of our discussion today is on vacancy appointment candidates. So just to do a little recap of time, on Monday, January 26th, I announced the vacancy and process during the school board meeting after the result of Tom Oliver's resignation. January 27th, the notice was placed on the Board of Education website. Friday, January 30th, the notice was placed in the Fond du Lac Reporter. Wednesday, February 11th, by noon, application paperwork with a letter of interest was due to the superintendent's office. From there, we are now together on February 16th, where we have received 4 applications of interest for that open board position. That being said, one of the questions we had is why does this happen in an open workshop versus a closed or executive session? So I've asked Mrs. Sachka to share out on that.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Motor. So as a governmental body, which our board is, there's very limited circumstances where you can conduct your business in closed sessions, and it must follow this exemptions that we sometimes reference for other executive sessions in that state statute 19.85, and then the different letters under 1. None of the conversations that would go with evaluating candidates or interviews really fall under any of these specific exemptions that would need to be listed. unless a board member has something specific that could be damaging to someone's reputation that they know would come out in such proceeding, we can't notice to be a closed session. And I did ask this of our legal counsel as well, just to make sure that we were going through everything appropriately, and that was the advice they gave me as well.
So thank you for those questions. We received 4 letters of interest with their resume, and one is Antonio Godfrey, one is Tennille Graff, one is Andrew Smedberg, and the 4th one is Kathleen Christensen. So we all,
Dismiss them. I don't know if they need to be part of this, do they?
no,
I just thought of that.
we can dismiss the administrative staff if you
That's up to them, yes.
are not interested.
Except how they sort of.
Yeah. Parliamentarian, yes. Thank you. You too. So we have 4 applicants. What we can do is, you've all received their information. What you could do is either, we can choose to invite one or all of them in for interviews. We can choose to read through the applicants and decide that there's one that we would like to fill the position, or we can decide that we're not interested in having any of the applicants in for an interview or period.
So if we don't appoint or we don't interview, then the election would fill it?
That's my understanding. Is that correct,
So
Hallie?
if an appointment
No?
is not made, then it comes to the board president to be the sole decider
Okay.
on how to fill that vacancy.
Oh, that's a lot on
So
your
I'm
shoulders, Katie.
suggesting
That's
that
all
this,
on you then.
I'm suggesting this is teamwork.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
interesting.
So I have a question. Is it standard practice? Because I know in the past when we've done this, it's always been through interview. To
We can
fill
do an
it out.
interview.
Well, I know we can, but I didn't realize there was a choice. I just thought it was always, that's how it had been in the past. And I didn't know that that was a choice to board appoint now or do interview. I didn't realize that, so.
Right,
Could
so-
you
so
appoint
we-
tonight yet?
No, we could not make an
I was gonna
appointment tonight
say.
because that would need a motion and a vote, which has not been prior noticed as
Okay.
required by open meetings laws.
Gotcha.
So you can say, next meeting, we would like to move forward with this appointment, and then we'd have the vote ready for our next meeting. But really, the appointment process comes to the discretion of the board of how they want to go through each circumstance.
Okay. That makes more sense. Thank you.
I guess I would like to interview. I mean, on paper, I mean, you can write whatever you want. I mean, it all looks good and everything like that, but I think there's something different about in-person interviews.
I also think that's the most fair way to do it.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say something about timing, and with Antonio having longevity and background knowledge as to how this board, what has transpired and gotten here, he doesn't, he has no learning curve to go through. He's familiar with the language, he's familiar with the vocabulary, the acronyms. Additionally, he is the only one of all the candidates that is running. The other 3 people are not running. Their interest became available after the opening, and his was displayed prior by running. So just given that for this appointment, I think that ought to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, I think that's good points. I guess I would still like to interview them all, though, my personal opinion. Because on paper, they all have strengths that they've highlighted, I'd like to just invite them and talk to them.
Just my opinion, I just wanted to be more fair about it, because otherwise, personal bias, I'd have an obvious choice, so. Yeah, well, that's why I want to make it fair to, give everybody a chance, yeah.
I think we can figure out a time when it makes sense. I would be willing to be flexible so that you can be here.
I would really appreciate it.
So I got a question on the interviewing process. Is that open? And then the discussion afterwards is also open?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I kind of concur. I mean, with what Joan was saying, I think we're going to have a struggle. I get it. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. On paper, they look good. I mean, I don't think any of them are bad options. I think the challenge we have is time. We got to get everybody moving in the same direction. You guys have experienced in the last 9 months how complicated it can be to come on and make cuts and understand all of those things. And if we have to start closing schools and things like that, you need someone that can't take 6 months to figure that out. We really need someone on there. And on top of that, I mean, I got to say, just my experience with Antonio, and we didn't start out that way at all, is good understanding. He represents a population in our district that's well represented that I don't have insight to, just like being a school teacher. I lean on you for that. I like the diversity. We don't need more insurance people. I'm an insurance guy. I just look at it that way, going, how can we bring a diverse, in a professional manner, culturally a diverse option to the table. And in reality, it's just making the election happen earlier, really, in a piece, because the election April 7th, the other two automatically get in, and that's the way I look at it. Because I'll tell you, I learned a lot on the cultural side, through Antonio in the past. He's in the schools some of these people, he's in every school, every grade school, every middle school, the high school. He helped me out quite a bit this last year on some wrestlers. I had 14 of them ineligible. Asked him, he came to the high school 2 days a week to do tutoring to help them become eligible and help out in those sense. Yeah, and he's brings a lot to the table. So that's just, I'm struggling with the timing of everything and saying we got to get this, moving. And, I appreciate what Antonio brings to the table just from my experience working with him. So.
Karen?
I'm kind of on the same page as Luke. I was looking at, we don't, on paper, and I've been through interviews before, and when I hired an assistant years ago, paper-wise, so I had two, paper-wise, one was stronger and the other one was weak. But interview-wise, the weak paper one was really strong, and that's the one we ended up with. And it was the right choice. So it's hard to go by, because they do all look really good on paper. So, and I see what you guys are saying. You're right. Antonio, he, has been here. He knows, can slide right in. But I guess I would, and to your point, Joan, the other three aren't running. Well, you're right. They're not. But maybe they wanted to and they weren't able to get their paperwork in, or maybe something came up, a life problem or something. I don't know. Who knows? But I still want to be able to look at all of them.
I understand. Life often always gets in the way.
Yeah.
But he pushed aside the intrusions of life and got 100 signatures. And
Well, and I do want to say the other ones didn't take out papers.
Yeah,
The other ones did not take out papers.
That's what she said too. And nothing
Yeah.
to discredit Antonio, but he's been through this process before. He knew how to do it. It was easier for him than other people. And I don't know why we're arguing this fact anyways. I mean, we got two people. Oh, okay. We got two people on here that have kids in the district, and that's something that I appreciate. You know, they're fully invested, you know.
Get rid of 5 of us, 7 or 6 of us that don't have kids in the district, that are on the board already.
Huh?
I said you get rid of almost everybody
Yeah,
at this
but I'm
table
just
that
saying
don't have kids
that
in the
goes to
district.
say something too, you know. I just think that we should just do interviews and do the due process.
So I'm going to pause because it sounds like, it sounded like 3 board members were interested in doing interviews. So let's do the interview process.
Do we have to do all of them, or can we narrow it down to 2? Can we do that?
I think we can narrow it down. I don't, from reviewing them, reviewing the applications, their letter of interest, as well as all of them are involved as board members in different aspects in other organizations.
Well, yeah, I mean, not all of them have, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
So is there, when I looked at them, knowing Antonio's background, knowing his expertise and the time he spent in the district, but I don't know the other 3 candidates, except for what I've read.
Does anybody on the board, I don't know if this matters or not, have any personal conflicts with the other ones? I mean, obviously Antonio was on the board with all of us, so that's different. But I mean, the other ones, as far as personal conflicts, like if it's a brother, cousin, sister,
No.
just asking.
When I look at Kathleen, she's got background on different boards and leadership. I look at Andrew, he's got, and I know boards are one thing, but boards also give you opportunities to see how other organizations run. Andrew has experience, and Tennille does as far as PTO, Loaves and Fishes, soccer coach, so not necessarily a board, but some leadership in PTO. And then Antonio has experience as city council, Men of Vision, Ebony Vision. So if I were to look personally at those who I would cut out, they all have leadership and they all have a connection. So there wouldn't be one that I would not invite personally, but I'm one person. So what do other people think?
I say all 4.
I mean, interest of fairness, I'd say everybody.
Okay.
I know that, I know.
No, I'm going back to my own personal question. Situation, how would you adjust it so that I would be able to do this? Here, I had a commitment from the 1st of March to I could get stuck there till the 5th.
I'm curious that,
I'm out of town the 6th through the 11th.
okay.
I'm out of state.
Could it be before the 1st?
Well, that's what I'm wondering is could we, it doesn't have to be connected. We can have a special meeting that's a workshop. So it doesn't have to be attached to our 24th.
That would make it easier,
It would be easier if we could do it on the 24th if the candidates are available.
because I'm at the state wrestling tournament the second half of that week.
Okay.
So,
I'm at federal funding in the beginning,
yeah, so, yeah,
the 24th.
yeah.
You're available? Everybody's available? So let's ask our candidates if they are available, and fingers crossed they are. I guess what I would also ask for, if there are, I'll put together a list of questions. If you would give me not necessarily questions, but themes of interest. So for example, it could be a question, but it could be, for example, one might be, you may be joining our board well into the year. How will you ensure, how will you quickly learn more about our board and what's happening in the school district? Like, that might be a question that I ask on how, so if you could send me questions, I would put together a list.
Yeah, when we did this in the past,
Uh-huh.
I believe the president has the control of the questions you took. I think Mark Trugella did it, I think. Took input. Yeah, took input, took questions in, and then the final is yours, and then you could ask additional from there, but.
Perfect.
Yeah, you don't want everybody
No.
bombarding 20
That's why I was saying
questions.
just themes
You
that I
gotta
could put,
organize
yep.
it, yeah.
Short and
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah. So, because that can turn chaos real quick.
When we called for applicants, did we specify that that individual was to also run in the spring election?
No.
No, they can't. The ballot's already casted about a month ago, so the ballot's already done. They can't run in,
So they can't run?
No.
not this, it'd be the following spring, because they take Tom's additional, so he would have been up next April, right? No, I'm sorry, following April, but you would come up next April for that position, because it just goes to the next election, and then you got to run, and then if you win that one, it's still just for one more year.
So this person doesn't take the 2 years?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, you'd have to rerun the following April, and then you would, if you get reelected, then you would be just for one more year again. Then it would go to the 3-year after that.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
It was the 2 years.
No, because I think I went through that originally too, as the interviewing process, and it buys you a short period of time. And then you have to run again, so you'd be taking papers out again in December to run for next April again, and then it would just be for 1 year after that, and then next one would be the 3-year. Yeah.
So run that by me one more time. It would be,
So
yeah.
whoever we appoint would have to run again next April, 2027.
That's what I'm wanting to know.
Yes.
Okay,
It would-
2027.
That position would end and would be up for reelection, so other people could run against that. But then for 2027, if they get reelected or elected at that point, it fulfills the rest of Tom's term, which would only be 1 year. So in 2028
Okay.
is when they would get the 3-year term.
So for the 2027 election, it would be just a 1-year term.
Yeah. So that's why I was saying, you're looking at a lot of stuff, big learning curve, 1 year. It's a lot of cutting. So.
And, all these members put in notice of application. However, as we reach out, maybe they're not all interested in coming in. That tells the story too.
So
Okay.
There's your question number 1.
Right. Right. Especially because the interview is going to be public, right? Okay, so, then I just want to clarify, we have Hallie will be inviting, our next meeting will be it's an extra meeting that is specific to voting on the budget reductions. There will then be a workshop to interview and choose to, if we choose to appoint a candidate. I don't believe there's anything else. Oh, and then the third thing is if Superintendent Steinbarth will bring forward the 2-year, school closings. Okay. Did I miss anything? And my microphone's on. All right. So, can we have a motion for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Henschel, a second by Mr. Laverance to adjourn the workshop. Can we have the motion, or can we have the roll, please?
Frame,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Laverance.
Yes.
Maine, yes. Pinal,
Yes?
Motor.
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. Our workshop is adjourned at 7:14. Thank you.